Welcome back to Mind Diagnosis Lab. In this episode, we are going to talk about the psychology of suicide, pain, silence, and hope. Section 1. The unseen aftermath. Some stories don't end with age or disease. They end in silence, and they leave behind survivors who are overwhelmed, confused, and shattered. The death of a loved one by suicide is a loss unlike any other, one that often leaves more questions than answers. After her father's suicide, Shannon Neal was left with a haunting memory. On the best night of her life, a winter ball in 2003, her father danced with her, laughed with her, and seemed full of life. Just weeks later, he parked his car in the garage, turned on the engine, and never came back out alive. Many survivors like Shannon carry the invisible burden of unanswered questions and unprocessed grief. Studies show they are at higher risk for mental and physical health problems in the months after a loved one's suicide. Section 2. Understanding suicide. To understand suicide, we must begin with clarity in terminology. Suicidal ideation. Thoughts about killing oneself, a common but serious symptom of distress. Suicide attempt. A behavior intended to end one's life, which may or may not result in death. Suicide. A completed act of intentionally ending one's own life. Non-suicidal self-injury, NSSI. Deliberate harm to the body without an intent to die, often to cope with overwhelming emotions. These behaviors are interconnected but distinct, and understanding their nuances helps us grasp the complexity of the issue. Section 3. Suicide by the numbers. The global landscape. Every year, over 750,000 people around the world die by suicide. These numbers may even be underestimated due to misclassified or ambiguous deaths. Key statistics include about 9% of people globally have had suicidal thoughts. Around 2.5% have attempted suicide. Suicide is among the top 10 causes of death in the United States, and the second leading cause of death among ages 10 to 24. In the U.S., the suicide rate has increased by 35% in the past 2 decades. Suicide disproportionately affects white, middle-aged men in rural areas with low educational attainment. Firearms account for about 50% of suicides in the U.S. Those who live in homes with guns have more than double the risk of dying by suicide. Men are nearly twice as likely to die by suicide than women, but women are more likely to attempt suicide using less lethal means, such as overdosing. Section 4. The silent suffering of NSSI. Non-suicidal self-injury is more prevalent than once believed, and is not confined to any one diagnosis. Many people without borderline personality disorder engage in self-harm to cope with intense emotions. Common forms include cutting, burning, or hitting oneself. Adolescents, particularly girls, are at high risk, with 12%, 24% reporting some form of NSSI. Why do people hurt themselves? Emotional regulation. Many say it helps reduce feelings of anger, sadness, or numbness. Social modeling. Exposure to friends who engage in NSSI increases the likelihood of trying it. Interpersonal stress. Conflict and rejection often precede incidents. Self-critical beliefs. Feelings of worthlessness or a need for punishment often drive the behavior. Persistent NSSI, often more than 50 incidents per year, is linked to increased risk for future suicidal ideation and behavior. Section 5. Risk factors. Who is most vulnerable? There is no single cause of suicide. Instead, many factors contribute to risk. Psychological disorders. Up to 2/3 of those who attempt suicide have a mental health history. Disorders most linked to suicidality: major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, PTSD, substance use, and borderline personality disorder. About 6 to 8% of people hospitalized for MDD, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia eventually die by suicide. Neurobiological factors. Genetics account for about 50% of suicide risk. Brain imaging and post-mortem studies show abnormalities in serotonin systems among those who attempt or die by suicide. Social factors. Suicide clusters can emerge after media coverage of celebrity suicides. Being divorced, widowed, or having a history of abuse increases suicide risk. A sense of burdensomeness and lack of belonging are powerful predictors of suicidal ideation, especially among adolescents. Protective factors include family support, connectedness, meaningful roles, and therapeutic relationships. Section 6. Ideation versus action. What makes the difference? Many people think about suicide, but relatively few act on those thoughts. So what determines who will? Hopelessness and a sense of defeat are closely tied to suicidal ideation. Those who act often report intense emotional pain and an inability to see solutions to their problems. Poor problem-solving skills and difficulty coping increase risk. A critical factor in moving from ideation to action is reduced fear of death or injury. Section 7. Preventing suicide. What actually helps? Contrary to popular belief, talking about suicide does not increase risk. It reduces it. Conversations can alleviate isolation and provide alternate ways to manage pain. Treating underlying disorders can be done by antidepressants, antipsychotics, and mood stabilizers such as lithium reduce suicidality significantly. Treating mood disorders also reduces suicide risk. Direct treatments for suicidality include cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, focuses on safety planning, emotional awareness, problem solving, and challenging negative thoughts. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, combines CBT with mindfulness and emotion regulation, especially effective for those with self-harm behaviors. Collaborative assessment and management of suicidality, CAMS, a flexible therapeutic approach centered on understanding a person's own reasons for suicidal thoughts. What about means restriction? Many suicide attempts are impulsive. Half occur within 10 minutes of the initial thought. Restricting access to lethal means, such as removing firearms, installing barriers on bridges, reducing toxic substances can save lives. Real-world examples. Britain's suicide rate dropped after coal gas ovens were phased out. Israel's military suicide rate declined 40% after soldiers were no longer allowed to take their guns home on weekends. Section 8. A message of hope. Most people who survive a suicide attempt later say they are grateful to be alive. In one study, 80% reported feeling relief or ambivalence within just 48 hours. This tells us something critical. Suicidal thoughts are often temporary. The feelings behind them can be addressed, challenged, and changed. Abraham Lincoln once said during his darkest days, "To remain as I am is impossible. I must die or be better." He lived, he healed, he led. Recovery is possible. Life can change. You are not alone. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, please reach out. Help is available. Your life matters.